All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to do bonus tutorial number 5. So a lot of people that had sent me questions, a lot of their sheets that I looked at was trying to do NBA DFS. So I did golf just to kind of teach you Excel and the process to go through. So since I've had so many people ask about NBA, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to flip it over to NBA. So I apologize if some kids are screaming in the background. My kids are playing and they're rather loud this morning. So everything's okay. That's what's going on. So this is what we're going to make. This one's a little bit more detailed because I added some stuff. So here's the one that I had for NBA. And this is from last year before we had our optimizer at cheatsheetpros.com. And so you would click optimize and it brings in your position here. And you can see we've got a whole bunch of stats. So pretty much everything I kind of pulled off my cheat sheet, I've put in here. One of the things you notice that's different, we still have our pick, our lock yes, lock no column, and our grand total. So what we're going to do, we're going to add these 5 positions for Fanduel specifically. We're going to add a position column for the player. And then we're going to change some parameters over here. We're going to change our salary up to $60,000 and players up to 9 to meet Fanduel standards. And then we're going to add a little box here for the parameters on players to choose. So for Fanduel, our min and max, for point guards we have 2, shooting guards 2, etc., etc. So there's not a lot of variance, but I'm going to put it up here so if you do other sports, you can kind of see you have some options, like for example, DraftKings. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this, and then hopefully we get time. We're going to show the spit out lineup over here to print it in order. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to reset the, actually I'm going to go ahead and leave this up. So let me move this out of the way. Okay, so here's where we're at. If you followed along with creating an optimizer in Excel, part 1 through part 4, this is where we left off at. So we're going to click Run Opto, and it's going to run, and it's going to print our golf players over here with our salary positions totaled, and clear is going to clear it. So that's where we left off. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do, okay, we're not locked. We're going to go right click on column B, insert. So we're going to insert a column over here, and we're just going to call this position. So we need the player position. So we're going to go off player name, their position, salary, and projection. Now you can tell with mine, I added a lot of stuff from my cheat sheet, but you only need, these basic ones. But I brought in team, opponent, Vegas total, Vegas line, average projection, a couple different models, algo, last 4 average, last game versus opponent, last 10 ceiling, DVP. So I had a whole bunch of information in there, and nothing changes. You can add that in there. It's just adding a column, and then you've got to move everything over that it's looking for. So let me move that back. So we added our position column, and I'm just going to make this red to show this is new. So this is a new column that we added. So we got position, and then our buttons. If you right-click on it, it'll put these little boxes around it, and then you should be able to move it. And let's just move it. Let's move it down a little bit. So we're going to move clear. Actually, I'm going to move that down a little further. I want to make sure that we got plenty of room. Good down there. All right, we're going to move it here. I'm just going to highlight and take the color off of this, add it down here so I can quickly look, see where they're at. Looks a little better. They're not centered. I got to have them centered. It drives me nuts. Or at least somewhat centered. That's close enough for me. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to add that we had talked about are the columns over here. So click on column G or wherever your lock yes column is, and we're going to go insert 1, insert 2, insert 3, 4, 5. And we're just going to call these the positions. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you remember, it only takes 200 lines of code. So for NBA, that works out perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove the color below these. If you've never done it before, on the left colored thing, click the little arrow and just go no fill, and that will take them all out. And then you can highlight them all, drag them together a little bit, and shrink them. I'm just going to shrink these down a little bit since we've already done those. And okay, so we've got our position tab. We added these, so I'm going to go ahead and make that red. So if you're trying to jump in, you can see where we're at. And then we need to add that column over here that's got all the differences. And so we're going to do, so let's go here. And so we're going to go chose. And then we're going to do min. We're going to do max. And I'm just going to do center. And then we're going to do point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I'm going to go ahead and just center these just cosmetically. And if you hold down control and highlight multiple boxes, you can change them. And so I'm just going to make them a light red to show we added these. And then these boxes here, I'm going to go ahead and add the grid. You click this drop down here, and there's all these different grids you can do. So you have all borders, thick outside border. Those are the ones we use the most. And then we're going to go ahead and, actually let's do the parameters in a second. See where are we at. Okay, so let's go ahead and start changing some parameters. So this is going to go ahead and get us started. So the chosen parameters, we'll add that. That's going to be a formula. This for Fanduel, it's just going to be 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, because that's the minimum and the maximum amount of players that you can have. So we're going to put those in. Our salary up here is now 60,000, and our players for Fanduel NBA is 9. Okay, so now we don't have to change anything in Solver because our salary is 60,000. And it says that the calculated salary has to be less than or equal to this. So just changing this box, you're okay. And then the players, it says it must equal the number of players, which is 9, so we're good there. And then calculated score, I want to make sure it's grabbing the right columns, and it is picker times projection. So we're okay there. I'm going to make sure the salary one is correct, or the calculated one. And that's good. So when we inserted that column, I want to make sure it moved over and didn't stick on B. So it's doing salary times picker, our sum product. That's good. And then players is the sum of the picker column. So we're good there. And so now we're going to go ahead and put parameters here in the chose column. So we're going to do equals. And where'd we go? All right, so we're going to know how many point guards. So we're going to do sum, let me capitalize that, G2 times G200. And so what this is going to do, you can see the blue line over here, it's going to sum this column. So we can only have 2 players picked in this column for point guard. So that's pretty easy. And then over here is going to be the same thing. We're going to do sum, and it's going to be H2, H200. And then we are going to do it again. And this one's going to be sum I2, I200. And then we're going to go ahead and add these last 2 columns in. Sum J2, J200 for our power forwards. And then our center, you guessed it, is going to be sum K2, K200. All right, so now when the optimizer or solver picks, it's going to put in here, and we're going to have another parameter on where to set this at. So we're going to set parameters saying basically it must equal 2, but you can put in there and say, okay, it must be above the minimum or equal to and less than equal to the maximum. So if you're on DraftKings and you've got someone that's point guard, shooting guard, that's where you get a little bit more complexity to put these different players in. All right, so we've done that. The position, we're just going to bring that in when we copy and paste our projections. And then our point guard, over here we're going to do, let me see what I've got for that. All right, so over here I've got, let me copy and paste them. And so we've got if B2, so column B right here, equals point guard, which is going to be up here. We're going to do 1 times, and this is going to be E2. It's our picker column. So we're going to do 1 times E2. So if it picks it, it's going to be 1 times 1 is 1. Otherwise, it's going to be blank. So right now it should just come up as 0 because yes, this is going to be point guard. All right, let me write that in there. Point guard, PG. So 0 means they're eligible. If they were not eligible at point guard, it would just be blank. And you can do that by quote. And then we're going to move on over, and we're going to do the same thing in each column for a different position. So this one we're just going to change from point guard to shooting guard, and you can just copy it over, and it's going to be the same thing, 1 times E2. And then we've got small forward, and then we've got power forward, and then we've got center. So by looking at this, so I'm going to show you what it looks like on the next one. So say this player is a center. We're going to try to drag this down. Okay, see the 0 pops up over here because he's center eligible. Now if I say shooting guard or small forward, now the 0 moves over here. And then on DraftKings, what you would do is you would say if, it'll be like a if or statement. So if B3 equals PG, do this, and then you'll have another comma and say if B3 equals PGSG or SG, SGSF, then you're going to get into some more positions. So for now, I'm just going to go across here, and this little box that pops up in the bottom right, you can see right there when you put your mouse over it, it turns to a plus sign. Grab it, so you're going to left click, and we're going to drag it down to line 200. And so what this is doing, it's dragging the formula down, and it's running all the way across there. So if we do center, 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 small forward, power forward, shooting guard, point guard, you can start to see these zeros mix up and spread around. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to copy and paste some projections from last year that I had in here. So we've got name. Let me pull these in here. So I got name. I'm going to copy and paste them down, and you can go get these anywhere and pause the video while I'm doing this. And then we're going to have position. Fanduel position is going to be the next one. So we got Fanduel position. I'm going to go ahead and add the color coding in there. And then we've got, what do we got? Salary and projection. Okay, so salary and projection. I've got those columns side by side on the other one, and I'm going to bring it in. All right, so we're going to copy and paste those. I'm going to make sure they all line up, so now everybody's got a position. We're going to go down to line 59 on this. And scrolling up, you can see the lock yes should be 0, lock no should be 1, and we haven't optimized anything, so this should be a 0. And then this lock, let's test it and make sure it's still working. So we're going to do L. Okay, that changes over here to a 1, and X is our exclude, changes 0, 0. So it's good. So our lock functions for lock yes, lock no are still working. Our picker column is still good. We've changed our salary, our players. We have our formula here for chosen. And then we've brought in our positions and added our position column. So this is a good spot right here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next step. All right, guys, now we're going to go ahead and get started with the solver parameters. So we're going to go ahead, go to your data tab up here. We're going to go over to solver. We're going to open it up. Now, first thing before we add any new, which we're going to add these right here, telling it to get this many players in each position and no more, so it's going to be equal to, we want to check the other numbers. So first off, I'm going to start down here and make sure these are all the same, which the constraint should follow along and all be the same, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. What does not change are these up here. And so I actually started recording this, ran into an error, found it, and so I am resetting it, so to speak. So our set objective was L1. Well, that's over here. So when we added columns, it moved our score column over to here. So now we want to make it R1. So if you click in this box and click here, it's going to change that to R1. And we're still max. We want the maximum score. And by changing the variable cells, our picker column was D2. And if we put dollar signs in there, it's going to stay D2. So when we added the position column over here, it still stayed at D2. So right now, if I run any of my macros, it's going to erase all the projections that I pasted in there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change these. So I'm going to erase this, and then our column is E. So I'm going to try to type it in. So we can do E2 to E, get in there, 200. All right, so we've got E2 semicolon E200 with a dollar sign between each one. So that's saying that our picker column is moved, basically. So I'm just going to click close so this can save. I'm going to scroll back up here to the top. All right, so open solver backup, make sure everything changed. So R1, E2, we're good. And then we're going to go ahead and add the parameters for these. So the simplest way to do this is click add. So we're adding a parameter, and once you click, it's going to go in here. So when we choose a player, that has to equal our min. So we're going to do it again. We click add, and then we're going to come over to our shooting guard. The number of players chosen is going to equal our minimum 2. Same thing with small forward, equals 2. And then we're going to do our power forward equals 2. And then we're going to do our center equals 1. So P10 equals Q10. That's all we're doing. And this chosen column is going to mix. So I ran this once in the background, so that's why you'll see some numbers on mine. And then click OK. So I'm going to close this. Now you guys can probably stop right here. What I want to do is go ahead and reset mine. So I need to reset all of these to 0. And what's the easiest way for me to do this? See, is that going to mess it up? Yeah, that's not good. All right, let me just try to run it and see what happens. See if we can get this baby to work. Okay, so we went up to solver, solve, and it worked. It found a solution. That's good. So we click OK. And so we haven't done this part yet, so don't worry about that if you don't see anything on yours. So we're going to double check some stuff. So we have our score, 289.65. You can change that down to a lower decimal point. Our salary is at less than our parameter of 60,000. Yes, it's 59.9. We have 9 players. That's correct. These are the number of players it chose. It met our parameters and equals each one of these. To determine what players it chose, the picker column goes from a 0 to a 1, but I went ahead and highlighted these and then put a variable in there. Just said if it's above 0, turn it light green so we can quickly see. So it chose DeRozan, Aldridge, Durant, Forbes, Rivers, Capella, etc., etc. So these are the 8 that it chose. Now, do not hit your Run Opto or Clear button because it's going to jack everything up because all of our columns have moved. So one of the things we want to do is we want to have a button that we can hit and make it run, and a button to hit and clear it out. So we have to do a few different things. So the first thing we're going to do, we have to do new macros. So we're going to go over here to Developer tab, and we're going to go to Macro, or we're going to go to Record Macro. And so we're going to call this NBA Reset or NBA Clear, whatever you want to do. As soon as you hit OK, it's going to start recording that macro for you. So go ahead and hit OK. So now when we clear this, we change the picker column to 0. So just do 0, enter, and then remember, bottom right-hand box, drag it all the way down, and you want to go all the way to 200 because one day you might have 200 players in here, and you want to clear it for all of them. So you got to go all the way down. And then our locks, I'm just going to highlight the whole column and hit delete. So if you ever lock or exclude a player, then in the future when you hit clear, it will erase that and it can all go back to normal. And then I believe those are the only two we have to do. I don't think we have to manipulate this, but we will check. So we're going to hit stop recording. Now, you're clear. Do not left click this button. Right click this button and then go to assign macro. Now we are going to go to the one we did. So NBA. Oh boy, I got all kinds of stuff in there. NBA, where did that thing go? NBA reset, there it is. Sorry, whenever you have multiple macro-enabled workbooks open, it's going to pull the macros up for all of them for some reason. I have no idea why. So we're going to click OK. So now we've assigned a new macro that we just recorded, so I'm going to test it and see if it works. So come back over here to Data, Solver, Solve, found a solution, click OK. So it changed, put our players, and now I'm going to hit clear. Okay, now it cleared it out for us, so that's good. Now we want to do one for Run Opto. So we're going to go back over to Developer, Record Macro, and I'm just going to call it NBA Run Opto Run. We're going to click OK, and it's going to start recording. And so I'm just going to go up to Data, Solver, Solve, OK. Now I'm going to go back to Developer, stop recording. Now we've recorded a macro to run Solver. So do not left click this, right click it, assign macro, and now we need to find, there it is, NBA Run Opto Run. Going to assign this. Okay, now click off. Now we've got a macro to run our optimizer and to clear it. Now we had to update these, so if you accidentally hit this, it probably, the clear button would have cleared this column, our projections, and that actually did happen to me. So we have to run a new one because we're clearing this column and not these two columns. So we're going to try our clear again. All right, clear works. It zeroed all of these out, and now we're going to try the run opto. Let's see if it works. Okay, so it popped up. It found a solution. Okay. All right, so that worked. It picked us new players, and it ran it, and now we're going to clear it. Now let's test it out. So let's say you want to be contrarian, 58,000. You don't want to spend the full 60,000. So let's run it. Okay, now it picked new players. We're still 9. It still matched all of these. That's great. And now our player is, or salary cap is at 57.9, which is below 58 like we told it. So that's good. And you can even record your macro to reset these if you want. It just depends on what you change. Most people, the solver is going to change the picker column, and then you're going to put in lock exclude. So let's go ahead and test the lock exclude and make sure it works. So who do we want to lock in here? Let's say we want to lock Steph Curry. So last tutorial we did an L for lock. And then let's run it and see if we get Steph Curry. Okay. And don't pay attention to this because it's not bringing up the right ones. And so that did not bring up Steph Curry, so that is an issue. So let's go ahead and clear this, and let's see why Steph Curry didn't come up. So he changed here from lock yes to lock no. Okay, that's good. So let's do exclude. All right, so it's not changing that right now. So L. On one of mine, I've got it where it's you can write lock or L, and so that's why it's pulling it up. So let me see if it's going to change this. Okay, so these are not changing. So one thing we have to do is we want to go and find update formulas instantly. Now, where in the world is that at? Let me find it real quick.